Well, good morning. Welcome. I'm glad that you're here with us today as we continue our chronological read through of the Bible. Our readings from Second Samuel and First Chronicles today cover the exact same material, and actually they do so in a nearly identical manner. Our third reading is from Psalm 20, and it asks for God's blessing as the king leads his troop into battle. A very appropriate psalm for the topic that's being covered today. It seems that Nahash, king of the Ammonites, has died. Nahash had apparently been king for a very long time, possibly as much as 50 years. His relationship with Saul, well, seemed to be confrontational. Was not a good relationship, but King David enjoyed a peaceful and good relationship with him. Actually, it might be that King David's half sister Abigail may have been a granddaughter of Nahash. So when Nahash dies and his son Hanan takes over as king, David sends a delegation from Israel to offer condolences. Unfortunately, Hanan's advisors are not helpful at all, and they suggest that really these are spies and that they're just there to spy out the city so that David can invade, and they're actually treated very shamefully. Half of their beards are cut off, half of their clothing is cut off at the hips. That was very shameful treatment. A grown man's full beard was a symbol of his manhood. And obviously, being forced to walk around with the equivalent of half your pants cut off is rather humiliating. Even though these men were important to King David's court, King David has compassion on them and he allows them not to come all the way back to Jerusalem, but to stay in Jericho for what was surely a rather long time until their beards had grown back so that they were not humiliated in his court in front of everyone else. Well, obviously, the action taken by this new king of Ammon uh, at the advice of his court it basically created the very situation that they feared in the first place, that Israel would go to war against them. So the Ammonites hired the Arameans to help them in what was now obviously a battle that was to come. As Joab went out to meet them, the Arameans were gathering with the Ammonites. So Joab goes out to meet them. And actually, notice, by the way, that David's not with them here. This becomes Israel's going out to battle, but he has Joab leading the troops out. He's not leading the troops out. And that's going to become a real issue in the next chapter. But just the same, Joab is going out to lead the troops in battle, and he finds himself caught in a pincher movement with the Ammonites to the front and the Arameans to his rear. Um, as you read this, notice the faith of Joab as he divides his men under the orders to come to the aid of each other as they're needed. The Arameans are the stronger force, so he actually selects his best men to face the Arameans, and then the others face the Ammonites. And the idea is that if one of them needs help, the other one will come to their aid. But he's been doing a two-front battle simultaneously. The rally cry that they have is to fight bravely for the cities, we might say the country, that God had given them. And they committed, and he committed them all of his troops to God's providence and his care. Well, God did indeed fight for them, and they did indeed defeat both the Arameans and the Ammonites, though they did not totally subjugate them. They just defeated them, and then they returned to Jerusalem. It's possible that at that particular point in time, King David wasn't really interested in expanding his territory to include areas that were not necessarily a part of the covenant, and he simply wanted to coexist peacefully with those around him. Although we'll find that as time goes by, that ends up changing. But the Arameans, they regroup. They're not willing to just let this lie. Remember, they're the ally. The Arameans regroup with a lot more soldiers to get avenged, basically to try to avenge their loss. So this time, David goes out with the troops. On hearing about this, David goes out with the troops. They cross the Jordan and they soundly defeat the Arameans, the ally of the Ammonites, and they subject the Arameans and their lands as vassals, as vassal territories. Interestingly enough, it doesn't appear that the Ammonites were involved in this second conflict, and it was fall. So King David did not resume his quest to avenge the insult to his delegation by the rulers of Ammon until spring. Um, Another interesting thing to note is that the Ammonites actually are going to eventually help King David. And after all of this is finally over with and done, eventually the Ammonites help King David when Absalom rebels against him a bit further down the road. So that leaves us now with Psalm 20. You're going to find the same, basically the same story, um, virtually identical in both your Samuel and your Chronicles readings. So now we have Psalm 20, and as you read Psalm 20, think of it as well as a prayer and petition for blessing as the king leads his troops into battle. Remember, as you're reading it, that the Lord's anointed refers to the King of Israel. And notice how Israel does not rely on the latest and greatest armaments and battle gear, but on the Lord of hosts who fights for her. And fight for her he does. Well, may God be with you and bless you. I pray that you're continuing to learn and grow as we read together and spend time together. I look forward to joining together with you again next time we gather.